The suburbs of Chicago in the 1970s seemed like the epitome of the American dream. Neatly mowed lawns, brick houses, backyard barbecues, and neighborhoods where everyone knew each other. But behind one of those front doors, in the quiet town of Norwood Park, lurked a horror so profound that it would shatter the illusion of safety forever. His name was John Wayne Gacy, a man who wore two faces: a respected businessman, community volunteer, and party clown, and a sadistic serial killer who buried the bodies of young men beneath his very home. He would become known as the Killer Clown, a man whose dual life stunned the world and remains one of the most chilling examples of hidden evil. The All-American Mask. John Wayne Gacy was born in 1942 in Chicago. His childhood was marked by an abusive father and a desperate need for approval. By adulthood, he seemed to have risen above his past. He owned a successful construction business, was active in local Democratic politics, and was known in the community as a generous man. Gacy was especially famous for his alter ego, Pogo the Clown. Dressed in red, white, and blue makeup with exaggerated features, he performed at children's parties, charity events, and parades. Parents trusted him, kids adored him, and neighbors believed he was a symbol of community spirit. But beneath the greaseband, Gacy hid monstrous urges. The victims begin to vanish. In the early 1970s, young men began disappearing in the Chicago area. Many were teenagers, some were runaways, others were simply on their way home from work. Few knew each other, but they all had something in common. Their paths had crossed with John Wayne Gacy. Gacy lured his victims by offering them work in his construction business or promising money for small tasks. Once inside his home, he would perform his handcuff trick, convincing them to let him cuff their wrists, claiming it was a magician's game. Once restrained, the horror began. The boys would be assaulted, tortured, strangled, and buried in the crawl space beneath his house. The double life. What made Gacy so terrifying was his ability to hide in plain sight. To the outside world, he was respectable, even admired. He entertained children as a clown. He hosted elaborate neighborhood parties. He met with politicians, even shaking hands with the First Lady, Rosalind Carter. In 1978, inside his house, however, the stench of death began to seep through the walls. Gacy brushed it off as plumbing issues, but the truth was that more than 24 bodies were slowly rotting beneath his feet. The investigation unfolds. The case began to unravel in December 1978, when 15-year-old Robert Piest disappeared after telling his mother he was going to talk to a contractor about a job. That contractor was John Wayne Gacy. Police grew suspicious. Surveillance teams watched Gacy and noticed erratic behavior. Soon, they obtained a search warrant. Inside his home, they found items belonging to missing boys: handcuffs, rope, and a strange, overpowering odor coming from the crawlspace. When detectives returned with a second warrant, they uncovered the nightmare in full. Beneath the house, the ground was filled with decomposing human remains. The bodies beneath the floor. Over the following weeks, police exhumed body after body. The crawlspace yielded 26 victims. 3 more were found buried elsewhere on Gacy's property, and several more were dumped in the Des Plaines River. In total, 33 young men and boys were confirmed victims of John Wayne Gacy, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. Neighbors, once charmed by Pogo, the clown, were horrified. The media descended, dubbing him the Killer Clown, a grotesque symbol of innocence twisted into terror. The trial of the century. Gacy's trial began in 1980. His defense argued insanity, claiming he had multiple personalities, including Jack Hanley, the killer side of himself. But the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution painted him as calculating and remorseless. Survivors testified to his cruelty. The jury took only 2 hours to convict him on 33 counts of murder. He was sentenced to death row, and execution. For 14 years, Gacy sat on death row. During this time, he gave interviews, painted eerie clown portraits, and continued to deny responsibility, even suggesting that others had committed the murders. His paintings, often of clowns and skulls, became macabre collector's items. On May 10, 1994, John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection. His last meal was fried chicken, shrimp, French fries, and strawberries. His final words were chillingly flippant. "Kiss my ass." Legacy of horror. Gacy's crimes left scars that extended far beyond his victims' families. They shattered the illusion of suburban safety, showing that a trusted neighbor, a clown at children's parties, could be a predator of unimaginable cruelty. His story also reshaped how America viewed serial killers, not as shadowy figures lurking in alleys, but as people who could live next door, smiling and shaking hands. The killer clown has since become a grim cultural figure, inspiring horror films, books, and even urban legends about clowns lurking in the dark. Could more victims still be unidentified? How did he manage to hide the stench of death for so long without greater suspicion? What terrifies us most is not just Gacy's brutality, but the mask he wore. Evil didn't appear monstrous, appeared as a clown who made children laugh. And so, John Wayne Gacy remains a warning etched into American memory. Beware the masks people wear, for sometimes they hide horrors you cannot imagine. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Crimson Narratives, because the darkest monsters often live where you least expect them.